Hello everybody, Corinne Smith here, former librarian, longtime mystery reader, and avid fan of author Louise Penny and of her series of books featuring Quebec detective Armand Gamache. As I record this video in the end of October 2022, I am eagerly anticipating the release of the next book in the series, A World of Curiosities. Comes out Tuesday, November 29th, 2022. It's number 18 in the series. I know. The waiting is the hardest part, as a famous man once said. So, what can we do in the meantime while we wait for Armand and the Three Pines villagers to re-enter our lives? As you may have guessed, I've got some recommendations for you. Number one, my first major recommendation here is to go back and reread as many of the previous books as you can. Now, I know I'm giving you only a month as I post this, but please read at least a couple of the ones right before, number 17, 16, 15. We'll get to them in a minute. You will be better off for this effort. And of course, as I always recommend, please read them in order. They'll make more sense that way. If you watched my video titled Tips for Reading the Chief Inspector Gamache books, then you know that I emphasize reading the books in order, and I tell you why in that video. Link below. So, when I found out earlier this year that this book was coming out at the end of November, I took my trusty calendar. Yeah, I'm not electronic. I took my trusty calendar on the 29th. I wrote down Penny Gamache release number 18. Then I walked back the months, and at the beginning of September, I wrote start reading Gamache books. Yep. So that's what I did. And what I decided to do was to read the last 5. Okay? The last 5. So, we pick them up here, starting with Glass Houses. All right? Read the last 5. Glass Houses, number 15. Kingdom of the Blind, number 16. A Better Man, number 17. Now, I'm getting off on my numbers here. Glass Houses is 13. Kingdom of the Blind is 14. A Better Man is 15. All the Devils Are Here is 16. And The Madness of Crowds, number 17. So that's what I did. Now, it's been since the beginning of September. I have actually just finished All the Devils Are Here, so I am well ahead of my schedule. So what I actually decided to do was to pause and read something entirely differently for the next week or two, and then get back into The Madness of Crowds in the middle of November so that I can work myself seamlessly into A World of Curiosities when it comes out. Now, I did talk more about the settings and the characters of the books in the tips video, so I won't repeat myself here. You can go back and watch it. I have to say that even though I wanted to go back and read a big chunk, I knew I wanted to start with Glass Houses, even though I was somewhat reluctant to do that. It's an important book. There are certain key books in here that have really important events happening in them, and you'll learn that in my tips video. Glass Houses is one of them. It's an important book because something really important happens at the end. I remembered those scenes. I didn't necessarily want to revisit them, but I knew that it was important, and I knew I had to do it. And that's all I can reveal about that one. So I went back to Glass Houses, which again is number 13. You know, before I found this series, I rarely read any book more than once. I mean, what was the point, I used to think. I've never done this compulsive rereading of any other series of books that I liked, but it makes sense to me to employ this strategy with the Gamache series, and here's why. Louise Penny gives us a lot to absorb in these books, in each one of them. And when we go back to them, as I just did, sure, we may remember who did it and why, but I think we're apt to forget all the little nuances, all the little quirky exchanges between the characters. They're little, but they're important. And I guarantee that if you reread the stories, at several points you're going to say to yourself, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Or isn't that cool? Wow, I totally forgot that this happened. Plus, yes, each book is supposed to stand alone as a story. And it can be read this way. But the truth is, in each one, there are always a few references back to events that happened in the past in other books, just like what happens in real life. You know, when you're hanging out with your friends, you may have some shorthand quips about some things that happened to you collectively in the past, and you don't go back and revisit all the details of it. It might just be a slight reference and everybody says, oh yeah, you know, or they just think, yeah, that happened. So my recommendation, reread a few of the last books so that you can seamlessly progress into the new one, the new one on November 29th. If you can't do as many as I just did, do at least one or two. Keep in mind that the second to last one right now, All the Devils Are Here, is the one that takes place in Paris and not in Three Pines. And then the action returns to Quebec in The Madness of Crowds, which is post-pandemic related, obviously. All right. Read some of the books, if you can, to remind yourself what's going on in Three Pines and what has gone on in the past. Recommendation number 2. If you want more goodies than just what the books can offer on their own, then there are 3 websites that you could visit. The main one is produced by the publisher itself, Minotaur Books, and it's GamacheSeries.com, www.gamacheseries.com. Because of the popularity of the books, the publisher eventually brought up this site. Has lots of cool features, additional cool features for you. Has summaries of all the books if you want them, all right? Has a feature called The Real Places of Three Pines, which shows photographs of some of the actual sites. You know, some of the places that Louise Penny uses are real, you know, including in the city of Quebec. This website has book club guides, has downloadable maps. Here's a picture of it. Here's a copy of a downloadable map of Three Pines in case you didn't have it figured out in your head what the village looks like. This site also has recipes that mimic some of the delicacies that Olivier and Gabri serve at their bistro. So if you're a cook, there you go. You could eat just as well as the Three Pines villagers. Don't you get hungry reading these books? It's wonderful. They eat so well. I am not a cook, so I don't go for the recipes, but you can. By the way, do you know why so many mystery books today, especially cozy mysteries, sometimes have recipes with them? Well, it's because publishers have figured out that mystery novels sell well. Cookbooks sell well. So, wouldn't it be great if you could combine the two? You know, like Reese's Pieces. Chocolate and peanut butter. Combine the two. Have a mystery that has recipes in it. Boom. You can hit both of those target markets. Okay? So that's why a lot of cozy mysteries have gone that direction in the last couple of decades. These are not cozy mysteries. There are occasionally recipes at the end, but not very many. Where you're going to find the recipes is GamacheSeries.com. Okay, you can also sign up for Louise Penny's monthly newsletter here. It's free, and it arrives in your email box dutifully on the first day of every month. If you get the newsletter, then you get extra information from Louise herself. You can also visit Louise Penny's author site, louisepenny.com, which is where all the books information started out as the series progressed. Again, summaries of the books, but features here that are important are lists of events, where she's going to be, when she's going to be doing remote interviews. That's key. You can also sign up for her newsletter here. And she has a backlog of all of the previous newsletters, so you can catch up on them as far back as you want to. But what's key here for me, I think, is she has a pronunciation guide. So she has a couple of files where she recites the names of some of the characters and some of the phrases that she uses, French phrases that she uses, so that as you are reading, you know what they sound like and you can read them to yourself like that. This is key for people like me who, for whom French is not their first language. I really, really like that. Okay. Yeah, so louisepenny.com, that is her author website. Choose that for events and for pronunciation guide. And then the third site I want to show you is for her hometown bookshop, Brome Lake Books, en français, Livre Lac Brome, and that's bromelakebooks.ca in Knowlton, Quebec. And they serve as her hometown bookshop. They often have the launch of each book held there, no matter what time of year it is. On their website, they have a section dedicated just to Louise Penny books. You can buy the books in French or in English. You can have them shipped to you. You can go there. They have downloadable maps, just like the one I showed you. They also have Three Pines related memorabilia, including some items that say, "I'm fine," F-I-N-E. That's an inside joke for those of you who have already read the books. Okay. You can also find information about tour guides here who will take you around the Eastern Townships and Quebec City in Quebec and show you some of the real-life places that are mentioned in the books. Now, if you're going to do that, if you intend to travel to Quebec to see these sites, please check ahead of time for the availability of what you want to see. Keep in mind that a lot of tourist-related sites are only open April and May through September or October. Anyway, there you have three very full websites: GamacheSeries.com, LouisePenny.com, BromeLakeBooks.ca. If you can't get enough and you want to study up and you just want more. Third recommendation. This is especially for those of you who are aspiring writers or who are writers and just want to find out more about Louise's writing process. You know, over the years, she has been interviewed probably hundreds of times by now. You could spend days calling all those interviews up online and watching them. Probably don't have to. And most of them were probably conducted as a book was being released, and so they would be focused mostly on that book. And so that's what it would be focused on. If it was for a regular television broadcast in Canada or the United States or even Australia or other places, if it was for a regular TV broadcast, it was probably only 5 to 10 minutes long anyway, just to give people a hint about the book coming out. There are lots of other ones that are an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour long. But again, she's a wonderful interview candidate. And she probably does her best to make each one as personal and as different as possible. But, you know, interviewers ask the same questions over and over a lot of times. And how can you say the same thing a different way? Anyway, my recommendation, number 3, is for a specific interview that I think breaks this mold. It was done in July 2022, and it was a benefit for a community fundraiser. It's called Louise Penny in Conversation with Michael Prupas, P-R-U-P-A-S. Link below. This interview is an hour long. I think it's terrific. Michael and Louise cover interesting questions and answers all around differently than a lot of the other interviews do. She reveals more details about her writing process and what her organizational strategies are than she usually does in most videos. And the content, I think, is really good and compelling. Now, it was a community video. It's a remote interview. Michael's one place, Louise is somewhere else. It's not, don't expect a professional grade polished production, okay? Sound is a little low on the recording. You may have to plug in additional speakers or put headphones on and crank it up. But I think it's well worth sitting down with this interview. Louise Penny in conversation with Michael Prupa. How did I find out about it? Louise put the link in one of her newsletters, either July or August. So again, sign up for the free newsletter. Then you find out these things, right? Right. Number 4 recommendation. Free up your schedule around Tuesday, November 29th, 2022, the day the book will be released. Because whether or not you walk into a bookstore that day and buy the book right off the shelf, or you've got it reserved at the library, you're going to go pick it up that day, or you have it delivered to your doorstep on that day, you know that as soon as it is in your hands, you're going to want to open it up and start reading it right away, right? So, the book is going to be just as long as the most recent book. So it's going to be at least 400 pages. You are going to need some time with this book. You're going to need some dedicated me time. Just you and Armand. So I suggest opening up your schedule at least 2 or 3 days. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Again, it comes out Tuesday, November 29th. I have myself scheduled to work that day, but since I'm the manager, I could change that. I may just ask a staff member to switch with me so that I can have that day off so I can start reading the next book. It's easy for me to say because I don't have any other responsibilities other than to myself, and I have a flexible schedule. But I do expect to go to the bookstore at 9 o'clock that morning on my way to work, if I have to go to work, pick up the book, and I'm going to want to start reading it. And actually, I am going to read the book twice that week because I intend to write a review of it for rambles.net, as I have done for all of the other Louise Penny books. Link below to my reviews on rambles.net. And to get the most out of the books, I read them several times just to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And that'll be fun, really. Vicarious fun for a former librarian. Okay? Now, what do I recommend that you not do in the next month while you are anxiously waiting for a World of Curiosities to come out? I do not recommend that you read any reviews at all. Any pre-publication reviews. Any summaries, even if they claim to be spoiler-free. Because, really, all you need to know is that this book is going to be set back in Three Pines. Armand Gamache and his second-in-command and son-in-law, Jean-Guy Bourgeois, will be on the case. Isabel will probably be there. The usual folks, Ren-Marie, Myrna, Ruth and Rosa, Clara, of course, Olivier and Bistro. And of course the dogs. Don't forget the dogs. Henri and Gracie. Anyway, that's all you need to know. It's going to be centered in Three Pines. And anytime you see a summary or a review, you know, it's somebody else's perspective of what is important to know to read the book. Even when you get the book and you open it up, do not even read the front flap, okay? Louise Penny's books always have her on the back. Hi, Louise. And the summary here. Don't read it. You know what this is written to do? This is written to snag you as a buyer and a reader. As a buyer first. As a reader, if you want to. You don't have to read this to be snagged. You've already been snagged, right? You've already been snagged since number 1, Still Life. So, no need to read even the plot, because I think you need to come to it fresh with your own ideas, you know, and say, okay, a new adventure. I'm going to meet these people again. What's going on in the village? What's the problem? How are they going to solve it? Do I know ahead of time how they're going to solve it? Probably not. Okay. So, go to it fresh when it comes out. Don't listen to any of the other things. I also recommend that you try to avoid all the interviews that she's going to be doing the week before. Now, you should know that these days, have you noticed most books come out on Tuesdays? Why is that? That is so that the publishers have the previous weekend to send their author out on interviews and public appearances so that they can hype up the book, so that there will be pre-orders for it, so that by the time it actually is released on Tuesday, it's at the top of the charts because of all of the hype. And actually, when you're an author, you're encouraged to have a 6-month window of promotion. 3 months before the book comes out, 3 months after the book comes out. And that is your key target time of promotion. So we've been hearing about this book for a while now. We've known that it's coming out because, you know, it's getting closer. But, you know, that weekend before, she's going to probably be out and about everywhere. She's already got events planned for right around there, if you look at her website. So yes, she's a lovely person to watch it get interviewed, but you don't want to ruin the experience, do you, of coming fresh to the story? Well, that choice is yours, all right? That choice is yours, but I'm going to try not to watch any interviews right before. All right, so I've given you 4 recommendations. I've given you a couple of recommendations of what not to do as we wait for A World of Curiosities, number 18 in the Armand Gamache series to come out November 29th, 2022. All right. If you're watching this video after the fact, after all the hubbub has faded away, you may employ this strategy for the next book, because we surely hope there will be more. And I would make the same recommendations. Read a couple of the previous ones so that you can work your way back into Three Pines, because you've probably been away from it for a long time too. You know, watch that one video, get her newsletter, look at the websites if you want even more information, that kind of thing. Now, someone who watched my tips video asked me if I had watched the trailer for the upcoming TV series based on these books. And my answer to that is a resounding no. Now again, you may choose to do differently, but I have in my head what these characters look like, what Three Pines looks like, and I'm comfortable with that. I'd rather not have someone else's perspective changing it or trying to change it or jading it. Again, you're an adult, you make your own decisions, but I'm staying away from the video production and I'm sticking with the original books. So there we go. We're waiting for A World of Curiosities, November 29th, 2022. Can't wait to read it twice that week. Thanks for watching. I'm Corinne Smith. You know the regular routine. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, make a comment below. How are you preparing for the series? If you're reading this or watching this after the book comes out and you want to talk about the book in the comments, that's fine, but spoiler alert, try not to spoil it for people who haven't read it, okay? But I'd like to know how you're preparing for this momentous occasion this year, A World of Curiosities. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you again soon.